Hello everybody and welcome back to our Fat Fact series. I'm Ted, your host, and for this Fat Fact, we're going to discuss the Roman Confederation and the Roman unification of Italy. Now, Rome's rise to dominance in Italy was primarily through warfare. Rome became the principal city of Italy through basically conquering and subduing all of our neighboring cities. From roughly 509 to 250 BCE, Rome engages in warfare with one or more of her neighbors on a near yearly basis. It became so typical. It became so typical for Rome to simply gather an army in the spring and lead summer campaigns into the fall, return in the fall, harvest crops, wait out the winter, and then go back out. During this period, the Romans were typically victorious, but there were some major setbacks in the conquest of Italy, with multiple wars being fought at once before an enemy was subdued and finally brought into this Roman Confederation. In the north, Etruscan power was fading away, so the Romans were able to chip away at their territory before claiming it all for themselves. In central Italy, the Romans encountered a group of cities known as the Latin League. Rome and the Latin League signed a treaty that made them both equal partners in their endeavors and gave the Latins a preferred status in Rome and within the Roman Confederation. Latin status would become a very coveted status within the Roman Confederation and later on the Roman Republic. It would be very much equal to full Roman citizenship. Now, Rome and the Latin League together, they fought and they subdued the various Italic mountain tribes. One of the tribes, once the mountain tribes were subdued, Rome turned on their Latin allies and attacked them, conquering all of the cities one by one until Rome was at the very top of this pyramid with no equal, at the very top of the power pyramid with no equal. Now, once Rome had control of the Etruscan cities, once Rome had subdued the Italic hill tribes, and once Rome had subdued her former Latin allies, they turned their attention to the south of Italy. Now, the Latin League cities and the Romans, just a quick note on them, they were very similar in culture. Very similar in language. As a matter of fact, the Latin language would be adopted by the Romans. We don't have much sources on the war between the Latin League and the Romans, but it appears that once it was all said and done, there wasn't that much of a change in the status of these Latin elites, that they still maintained their preferred status within the Roman Confederation, within the Roman Republic. Now, once all of the business in central Italy had been taken care of, we can count the Etruscan cities. They were south of the Po. We can count all of them as central Italy, along with the plains of Latium. Once that had been done, the Romans turned their attention to the south of Italy. Now, in southern Italy, there was another very powerful confederation of cities under the Samnites, and the Samnites and Romans fought three major wars against each other, and the Romans suffered some pretty major defeats en route to subduing the Samnites. One interesting side effect of the Samnite campaigns was the construction of the Roman system of roads. Had the consuls needed to move south in a hurry, because these were yearly campaigns they were leading, they had to find quicker and quicker routes to travel on. The first Roman road that was a north to south route, and it was called the Appian Way. And it was named after the consul who had it constructed, Appius. Now, Roman roads would go on to become a very endearing symbol of Roman conquest, the Roman power. It became very symbolic. It became a very symbolic meaning. They built roads wherever they went, and it was almost like a territorial mark for the Romans to construct roads in territories that they had conquered. Now, throughout their process of conquering Italy, the Romans had a very unusual process. Typically, with ancient conquest, the defeated people, the defeated city will be sacked or burned down, and the defeated population either killed or sold into slavery. The Romans, instead of killing and enslaving the entire population, the Romans will grant certain privileges to the city's population. Sometimes the elite of the city will be granted Roman citizenship, but more commonly the Roman would grant cities half citizenship. That is legal protections, but no voting rights. Now, a third thing that the Romans would do would be to declare the city a socii, or ally of Rome. The one common denominator in all Roman treaties was an obligation to provide men for the Roman army on demand. The Romans did not require taxes from everyone, but they did require men for their army. And making this the universal condition of the treaties gave Rome unlimited manpower to draw upon. It will serve to illustrate why Rome will be able to raise army after army after army, and fight multiple wars on multiple fronts. Now the men, and this is a sort of like side effect, an unintended consequence of Rome demanding manpower from these conquered peoples, from these new allies, these new societies. The men who were called upon or drafted to serve in the Roman army, they became heavily Romanized. They learned Roman customs, they learned Latin if they didn't already knew it, and they would begin to see themselves as Roman. They would serve in these armies typically every year. A man might be called to serve in the Roman army. They would already be elites, so they would have something in common with they'd be elites, or they'd be wealthy enough to purchase their own military arms. But they would typically be able to relate more readily to Roman elites because they would often be elites in their own cities. But through military service, the Romans Romanized Italy. They spread the Latin language, they spread Roman culture, they spread the use of the toga, of the foods eaten in Rome, and of course of the political and social customs of the Roman elites. They spread those throughout Italy, and Roman culture and the Latin language, they become the central language and the central culture of the Italic peoples. And we'll break here. It's sort of a long, fast fact, but hit like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you thought about this fast fact. I am Ted, and I'll see you guys next time for another fast fact.